Welcome to the final ship of the week for 2023. This week's entry is SS Belgenland, a proud ship born at the absolute worst possible time. Laid down at the same Harland and Wolff Belfast yard where Titanic and her sisters were built, and indeed the ship sitting in the gantry in the background of this image is Titanic, the new Red Star liner Belgenland was diverted from her intended express service as flagship of the Belgian Merchant Navy upon the outbreak of the First World War. Launched on New Year's Eve in 1914, the hulk was laid up until 1917, when she was hurriedly completed as a shell of the liner Harland and Wolff envisioned. With only 2 funnels, an extra mast, and a trimmed-down superstructure, Red Star Line looked on anxiously as their flagship commissioned as a transport under the name Belgic and operated by the fellow international mercantile marine property, White Star Line. In the latter part of the war, she exchanged her vast holds of wartime cargo for vast dormitories of American infantrymen, sailing as a troopship for several years following the conclusion of hostilities as the lengthy process of repatriation dragged on. She's seen here, already in peacetime colors, triumphantly arriving at New York laden with thousands of soldiers, flag-waving crowds at the piers to greet her. It seems members of her crew, during the period in which she was still under White Star Line control, were running a black market operation to sell valuable cargo from Belgic's holds, and a firefight between members of the operation and the New York Police Department broke out, with most of the suspected apprehended and dismissed by the line. A year-long overhaul began in March of 1922, and Belgic re-emerged as the splendid Red Star Line flagship Belgenland, finally sporting her 3-funneled silhouette, towering superstructure, and opulent public rooms. The rapid collapse of the immigrant trade following the United States' passing of the 1924 Immigration Act eliminated the demand for the Edwardian-era steerage accommodation on her lower decks, however, and much of that section of the ship was reallocated for other crew uses on her first crossings from Antwerp to New York. Very early following her arrival in the passenger scene, she was already drawing the attention of various pleasure cruise ventures, the first of which saw the ship run a circuit of the Mediterranean, allowing her passengers to take in all manner of ancient sites in Egypt and cities of biblical interest in Palestine. This cruise would not be her last, and she frequently alternated seasonally between Atlantic Express service and world cruises to Europe, the Caribbean, the Pacific Islands, and the Far East. The first world cruise Belgenland took, spanning the new year between 1924 and 25, saw the ship only avoid taking fire from army installations in Shanghai Harbor due to the frenzied dispatch of the U.S. Navy destroyer USS Bowery to guard her. In 1926, Violet Jessup, a notable stewardess for surviving the destruction of Titanic, and her younger sister Britannic, both built in the same yard as Belgenland, signed on and would be with the ship for much of the liner's late career. The 1927 world cruise avoided China entirely following the scare the previous trip, and a massive rogue wave struck the ship during a December 1927 Atlantic Express crossing, although the ship survived with only cosmetic damage. She continued on her merry way for several years until late summer 1930, when the infamous New York gangster Jack Legs Diamond decided to attempt to flee the United States. American authorities were unsure precisely when and with which ship Diamond might make a break for it, but 2 other potential escape ships, Olympic and Baltic, arrived at their destinations without any sign of Diamond among their passengers. Belgenland, bound for Antwerp via southern England, was alerted to the possibility that the fugitive might be aboard, and after a thorough examination of everyone on board, Belgenland's officers found him, sailing under the name John Nolan. Diamond was prevented from disembarking in Britain by police there, and upon arrival in Belgium, he was promptly deported to Germany, who immediately arrested him and sent him back to the United States aboard a cargo liner bound for Philadelphia, where warrants remained out for his detention. Belgenland's 1930 world cruise included radio telephone connection experiments conducted by AT&T to determine how far their technology could be feasibly pushed. The cruise's call distance record stands at 18,000 miles, which for 1930 was quite impressive. Her Atlantic voyages in the 1930s carried many prominent passengers, including future First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, seen here aboard the ship with her traveling companions, and Belgenland's cruises also boasted important figures, including Albert and Elsa Einstein. Their positive experience aboard the ship in 1930 likely helped in choosing her several years later, when the couple fled the fascism of the German Reich. They're seen here aboard Belgenland in 1933. With the U.S. firmly under Prohibition's drought, short cruises just beyond U.S. territorial waters proved enormously popular, with swing music, alcohol, and sometimes other nefarious yet lucratively profitable activities abounding. By the mid-1930s, however, Belgenland was already beginning to show her age. In the final days of 1934, Red Star Line began the transfer of their liner to Panama Pacific Line, intending to operate the ship on Caribbean cruises. Panama Pacific renamed their newly acquired ship Columbia, gave her a new paint job, light gray, and her nationality of registration changed from Britain to the United States. She spent early 1935 sailing modestly popular cruises before her age and dated equipment made the necessary upgrades to pass inspection prohibitively expensive to continue to operate her at any level of profitability. Columbia was withdrawn that September before sailing to Scotland for scrapping in early 1936.